Welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation.
We are back, coming to you live from CES 2019. As always, this is the Peggy Smedley Show, and I'm your host, Peggy Smedley. And I have a great guest right now. I'm with Thomas Coughlin. He is the IEEE Fellow, and he is president of Coughlin and Associates. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you very much, Peggy. It's good to be here.
So you and I have been laughing as we were waiting for the next segment here to start, but I have to tell you, it's going to be fun because we are just talking about all of the crazy things that are going on and the great things as we look at the proliferation of all the technology here at CES. Mm-hmm. And you were saying this is your 20th year coming here to CES?
At least 20th year. I've actually did a show focusing on digital storage and applications that was a partner to the CES for about 15 years. But I've been going to the CES and doing things around the CES for a long time.
So what that means is either you and I have been around a little too long or the show's been around a little too long. I'm not sure right now. That's all I'm saying, Thomas. But I will say this. That means we have seen a lot of technology come and go over the years.
Yep.
Now with that, what do we want to say? Are we seeing a lot of great things, a lot of crazy things? What's your thoughts?
A bit of both. You know, the way I often characterize it is, you know, you can see the silly and you can see the sublime.
That is true.
Things at CES.
So let's talk about what you've seen so far.
Yeah.
You've walked the show floor,
mm-hmm.
and my personal opinion, there's some really amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to go ride the Bell helicopter. I mean,
I would love to do that. Yeah.
I want someone to take me around. I had Tyler tell us that from CTA, all about that, and I had to go over there and check it out.
Yep.
But there's some other things here that I go, it's never going to happen. It's great to imagine. But when you look at all of this technology right now, my initial perspective on this is there's nothing that's overwhelmed me and wowed me to say, wow, that's going to move mountains right now. I think we've gone to the next evolution right now. Is there something, though, that I've missed that you've seen that said, no, that's going to be a game changer?
I think part of it is, actually there's enormous things that are going to be happening. It's just been hearing about them so long, they seem commonplace.
But that's what I'm saying. It's almost like we've gone to 2.0, that next level. I mean,
Yeah.
we are seeing autonomous vehicles.
We're starting
finally,
to see some of the technologies, yeah.
We're not at 5.0 yet.
Right,
you know,
right.
we're not at that level yet. But we know we're starting to see the movement. But with that, like, you know, we haven't seen the big movement of something that we say, wow, something was introduced here that we never imagined before. Was there anything here that you've seen so far that you said, wow, I never even knew that could happen?
Well, first of all, you know, we're living in science fiction.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, that's what I mean. It's like, you know, and I got interested in technology because of science fiction to begin with. He said, I want to make the things that the hard science fiction writers are talking about. And that's what got me into engineering, too. And I look around me, it's coming true. And it's still amazing, even though it's stuff that we thought we could do. But in the course of finding out what you do, you actually learn new things.
Isn't that what the brainchild, as I kind of say, what comes out of IEEE? IEEE really focuses on getting the best of the best, right? I mean, isn't that the idea of constantly trying to innovate, try to provide the best of innovation?
Yeah, IEEE is the largest technical professional organization in the world with over 420,000 members worldwide. It's got over 42 technical societies and councils that deal with the technologies that help make all this stuff possible. You know, so it's engineers, technologists, software writers, all these people that are helping to make these things that we see here come true. And it's just an amazing number of ways in which people can combine these things to make these interesting products, whether it be in the cloud, you know, at the edge, you know, we got 5G and all that stuff happening, or it be in the individual devices, or even potentially in your body.
So that's for me, that's what I've been saying. I've been talking about IoT before it was IoT and it was M2M, so maybe that's the point that you're making, is that we've been talking about all these things for so long, we're finally seeing that evolution. So IEEE, who helps bring these great things to life, we were just finally seeing them. We've been talking about IoT, and now we're seeing it in smart homes.
Yes.
We're seeing it in smart cities.
Yep.
We're seeing it in smart cars, you know, autonomous vehicles. So all these things we're seeing, you know, in our health, you know, healthcare. So now we're really seeing, we've been talking and hyping it, but we're actually seeing it come to life on the show floor.
And I come from Silicon Valley, so the other thing is you gotta work hard. You got to try to do the thing, and if you fail gloriously and lead on to the next evolution, you know?
Is that something, that's a wonderful point,
Yeah.
because we sometimes hate the idea of failure, but failure is good when you're pushing the envelope to get to like where we are at 5G. I mean, we've been talking about it, but 2G was so perfect because we didn't need 5G for some of the things 2G did, right? And so that's that next point. So if you failed, who cares? Because you created something even better when it was in the world of cellular or Wi-Fi or whatever it was. There was okay to fail and create.
And fail is more a judgment than an actual thing. Because what happens is if you fail right, you will have learned something that will lead to the next evolution of ideas. For instance, we're getting 5G stuff introduced now. There's no standards that are actually fully approved yet. So all this stuff is 5G-ish. It may or may not be working in 2 years' time. There's a possibility of that, depending on where the standards go. But if you start pushing the stuff out, then you start to get people to use stuff to find out the things they can do. Does this work or not work? It actually feeds back into the specifications, and that's one thing IEEE does too. Of course, it's a lot of communication specs.
And that's what people are saying, well, it doesn't work. And that's not necessarily true. It's what you create and how you create on it to make it work, and that's the whole point.
What's important is the way that it doesn't work.
That's a great assessment. So when we look at all of this technology out there, I always say we need great innovators.
Right.
And the innovators are what make all that's behind us possible, right?
Yes.
And we need the next generation to constantly, in our current generation, to constantly want to innovate, right?
Boy, I
and
sure
isn't that what IEEE is all about?
Oh, absolutely.
Keep bringing that enthusiasm, because I think we're losing some of that STEM, and we really need to keep encouraging it and making those things possible.
I think it's very true. I think, we face enormous challenges ahead of us. The climate, with, resources, growth of population. There's enormous opportunities at the same time. Most of these things, or a lot of what's going to solve these things, there's going to be, of course, political and economic things. But a lot of it is technology. And technology actually has created an enormous amount of the growth in today's world, will in the future. And you need the people. And especially, I'd love to have, us to get the next generation ready to make those products, ready to roll them out, ready to fail, and move on and make the next big thing. Because eventually, even if something fails, or it's not quite what you thought it was, someone will find a way of making it so that actually it works if it can work.
Do you think our generations today and our subsequent generations are afraid to fail? They don't, because we have such amazing technology that they feel that they can't compete in this world?
It's a danger that, depending on sort of your social mores and that sort of thing, I know in some parts of the world, failing is a loss of face, or it could be humiliation. But I think you need to take another view of that. We often learn from our failures. We learn what doesn't work, if nothing else. Like Edison's old saying, he had to try 999 different things that didn't work before he found one that did for making the light bulb. Is that you can learn, if you do failures right, you learn from them and you move on and you do more things. And I mentioned Silicon Valley, but there's that attitude there that people fund people who have actually done stuff, even if it was successful, as long as it was great enough.
Well, if we think Edison was a failure, wow, imagine what the world would be if he, we have to think about that, right?
You do.
Think about the products that come here. We have 180,000 attendees. How many products have come and burst on the scene that we don't even know exist anymore? I mean, are they failures, or they were attempts to try something and then they came and tried something else?
Well, as I said, I've been going to these shows for quite a while. Over in the Sands, they have that Eureka Park, and the older equivalent of that, right?
Right.
And so they're kind of the cheap seats for exhibitors. And
that's a great analogy.
Yeah, and you find, but I always love to go through there because you find fascinating things. Like the last couple of years I went in there and I saw somebody doing 3D printing of biological materials, tissues, essentially.
Right.
There's people doing all manner of different, applications and things. And like I say, some things are really silly, but some things say, that's got some possibilities. And I have seen things in those exhibits that eventually moved into larger exhibits and became successful companies. At least for a while.
Look what happens on some of those products that start in Eureka Park. They move in there that are like great connected sport products that have come to life. We look at what happened with Oculus Rift. I mean, we look at those things, AR, VR, those things, drones. I mean, amazing things that just happen here that we think, are we ever going to really use them? But now they actually are used so that humans don't have to go in areas that are dangerous, that we're
Yes.
saving lives. I mean, and so it uses things that we never thought before that we now say those are really being used in things that are in a different environment that in the beginning we didn't think was possible.
In fact, one example of that is you used to see over at the Sands is where they used to have all the little robot section for years and years and years. And now there's like the whole back of the South Lower Florida, which is just robots, wall-to-wall robots.
Well, think about it. Robots we first thought were in manufacturing, only in manufacturing environment. Now we think about robots are the next AI, right? And
Oh,
you
yeah.
and I were talking about, look at how AI has changed.
Yes,
And we
yes.
think about robots, and that whole world is going to change. And what is a robot today? Is a robot just an arm? Or is a robot an artificial intelligence and communication that's going to happen? And they're all evolving into different forms of what people think robots are, right? In that communication.
Yeah, if you went back there, you'd see all of the things from like a robot dog toy, which the dog would chase and try to pick up and it'd kind of get away from it and stuff, to, there was a big shark, a big robotic shark over there. I didn't get to see that swim around, but it was like, this big.
Is this a whole new version of Jaws? I'm
Yeah, I
not
know.
sure,
Yeah.
what we have here now. So, I mean, and it's a fascination because we have robots that were in a different way. Now
Yes.
we have artificial intelligence, going to machine learning, then
Yep.
we have deep learning,
Yep.
then we're going to quantum, and it's all different phases.
Quantum computing, yes.
But now when we get to all of these kinds of things, the question I have is, what's really going to be the next big thing? And everyone's talking about our Alexa. Everyone's talking about Google. Everyone's talking about Siri and all of these things. Is that what we're going to have now? We're all going to be talking to things, and they're all going to be talking back to us. And is that our next big evolution here on the show floor?
Well, that's what we'll find out in time, right? But the thing, it's one of the things is that artificial intelligence of all different sorts, right? There's a lot of different algorithms that are used for that. They're probably here to stay, and they're going to be transformative to the way that we interact with things. Now, but there's other things going on. Some of these are not so visible unless you dive deep into some of the tech companies, like semiconductor companies. Is that there's a revolution in the whole way in which we build computers, especially because of we're no longer seeing that Moore's law type scaling in terms of making things smaller and smaller. Now we're making things, if you will, smarter and smarter. We're creating processors that develop, instead of general purpose processors, there's a lot more of these what they call accelerators, which are special purpose processors that are doing all kinds of things from doing computation inside of storage devices to enabling AI and almost everything. And so there's these subtle things that are going on in there which are going to enable things. Battery and power technology. Will we see a day? This is one of those things that I think people have in their mind. We can interact through our voice, interact through haptic devices, but you can build it all in something like this, and a display device built in here for augmented reality to give you a vision. I look at you and I remember your name even though I saw you 10 years ago or something like that.
And the interesting thing when you describe all that,
Yes.
and we talk about, in all of those, we think about how batteries will be created,
right.
how that will change. We talk about how growth has been Moore's law and everything, exponential growth. Will that continue through what we're doing now in the way you just described?
As long as we keep training that next generation of technologists, adventurers, and science fiction writers, if you will.
But is that going to happen? Because we're seeing a shortage right now.
Yes.
Will that's what I fear, is we don't have that. We don't have it right now. We have a shortage in schools to be able to do that. So will we run into this shortfall of being able to continue with that growth that we've seen for years and years and years?
Or for that matter, will education stay the way it is right now? For instance, college education in the United States is enormously expensive. And I think part of what it is that, my own view of things is, what are new ways in which our technology can help us to learn, to train, to get folks excited about the things around them? And there's things like that are out there, like the maker movement. Over again in the Aero, over in the Eureka Park area is giving away Arduino boards for people to play with. They have a whole area there for people doing hardware hacking and things of that sort. So there's the traditional things. I think part of what's going on is we're going to see enormous changes in our culture and the way we do things that are enabled by all these new technologies. And even things like traditional education is probably going to change the result of that.
So sitting in a classroom like we're
Yeah.
used to right now and students being lectured at will not happen anymore. We are going to learn in a different way at our own level. You think
Something
we'll
like
still
that, maybe, and maybe it's like anybody could learn from the best teachers in a way. What if we could package material from the people that are best at maybe even communicating to you where you are at about something? And that could be
asking questions the way you want to ask
exactly.
those questions.
It's like
and
we're talking
learn and
before.
learn.
It's like let's get Bixby and Siri and Alexa
They're all
and
gonna-
Google to
they're
talk
gonna-
to each other.
Oh, they're not going to talk to each other. They're going to fight it out. Let's be honest. They don't know how to communicate. We argue with, Alexa and things like that now.
Right.
Put them all in a room, it's going to be a fight.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Ooh, and you know what would be interesting? Who would win?
I don't know.
Those would all have a challenge. They'd all argue it out. I'm telling you, that 180,000 people here would be in the room to watch that
That would be
fight.
fascinating, wouldn't it?
That would be amazing. It would be the best of the best. I think we just started something. We encourage them now. Anybody watching this show would say, let's do it,
And who wins? Potentially we all win.
We all do.
Exactly, because these technologies ideally, because we're human beings, we become more of what we are, ideally, from this stuff. Technology can work in good ways and bad ways, but if you do, the right approach to it, create ethics, protect privacy, and some of these other very important considerations, that we will enable people to be individually to be stronger, more capable than they've ever been before. We could enable a new generation of people who are interested in technology or could be interested to find out about it and to be able to explore and create even better and greater things than what we've done now.
You brought up privacy, which is always something I like to bring up because privacy and security are something that always has to be focused on. And it seems like we've become a society that doesn't focus enough on privacy and security. We don't read our privacy statements enough. While we have companies that are focusing on security, then we also have things that these giant hacks happen. Our security just breaches occur, and to the most reputable firms that something happened. Are we still doing enough to protect ourselves and the data behind all these things?
Well, obviously, because we're still getting all these hacks and stealing personal information, we're not. And it's one of the things that IEEE has cybersecurity and other initiatives going on that we're working to, among other people, working to try to find ways that we can do this. Another thing, IEEE, and sort of reflection of the technical community, for instance, AI, what are the ethics of AI? And that includes, for instance, protection of privacy and things of that sort, or what should machines do versus humans do? Who makes the decisions on stuff? These are all extremely important questions. They're things that we need to develop better because, of course, the people that are trying to foil and get access to that information, they're getting better too. So, it's going to be a continuing development of ideas and concepts. Ultimately, maybe this is where you get into that whole quantum computing thing, which is maybe able to create new types of cryptographic standards that are even harder to break than the current ones.
Once we get to that point of quantum computing, that's going to change everything as we know it today. It's going to take some time before we're really going to be able to change everything over to that. I mean, it's not going to be an easy transition.
Well, the other thing is a technology that's going to involve as much hardware, at least initially, as that is going to be expensive. So, it's going to have to go down that whole value chain before it's in your pocket. But with the cloud sort of things and the connectivity that we're talking about getting, even somebody with a phone could get access to quantum computing. In fact, I've heard from some people here that, you can, let's see, there was some of the quantum computers that exist, the simple ones. I think was the IBM talk, the keynote. They were talking about there were an enormous number of people worldwide who had access to quantum computing, through the internet.
When we talk about, even before we get to quantum, when we talk about things like the cloud and the edge, we've really advanced, especially now getting companies like manufacturers to really appreciate where they need to go. Are we really starting to make some progress, do you think, there?
Yes.
Yes, and
well, there's a lot of things that are part of what is progress. Is going to be, can people find better, make things that are more personalized? Can they do it without bugging you? Right, that's something that we still need to get a handle on in terms of the constant barrage of input and information that you get, or ideas and stuff. Can we help people to do the things that they need to do to earn a living better? And that's where again getting into some of these new technologies, the artificial intelligence, new computing technologies to support that. you know, again, we're going to have, right now, we have apps that help us do all sorts of things.
But
you know, in the future, it'll be even more, I think.
But that kind of gets us to the point of, you know, when we talk about products that have been produced, you know, manufacturers are having to create products to get more intimate with us.
Right.
When a manufacturer before made a product, they sold it, they had no relationship with us.
Right.
Now manufacturers are trying to get to know us in ways they've never done before. They're trying to have services. They're trying to offer things that they never did before, and that's what we're talking about. To get to the edge, they have to do that. They have to know us.
Right.
And so they're providing things in ways they never did before. Is that going to change? And you and I were talking even before the show, the idea that they're going to know, you know, what products we're buying to help us, you know, with recipes and things like that. Is that going to be the relationship now the manufacturer has with us? Is it going to be a software as a service type thing that they have with a third party? Is it all going to change? How is the world going to be? Because we're never going to imagine that we have a relationship with Whirlpool that we never thought about, or whoever that manufacturer is that's making that appliance. It's going to change completely that you and I never thought of before.
Or could we all end up essentially being in virtual company towns?
Oh my goodness.
You know what I'm saying there?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, and I think there's always trends towards sort of collecting in people doing things as a group, or trying to satisfy people as a group, even though doing it individually now, but they've got a mass connections of people. And people who will want to, you know, sort of do their own way, and they want to make choices. And people coming in with new products and new ideas. So I think as long as we have a climate and a capability for people to change, people to access and grow and develop, and new things come along, those new ideas, and as long as we don't freeze ourselves, I think we can retain our freedom and, you know, still get the benefits, you know, potential longevity, potential being able to support more people to exist, give them meaningful things to do, help them to do things they've never done before. As long as we have that openness in society to allow continuing developments, not freeze the thing, I think, you know, we're probably going to see mankind achieving whatever it is that we're going to end up achieving and being in the future.
It'll be interesting to see the world that we kind of share ideas. You know, you and I will be able to share recipes based on, we both own the same kind of appliance.
Yeah.
You know, you'll know that I'm turning on a stove and being able to, will that be a good thing or a bad thing? You know, and you're going to come over and have dinner at my house and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be there, and those kind of things will happen because we'll be in communities together.
Yes.
So the world's going to change in a place that most of us have never even imagined now.
Well, people already have friends that they've never met personally, I mean physically.
Well, that's how the gamers do it, right?
Exactly.
And that's what's going to happen in our world when we're thinking and having dinner parties, and the world's going to change to a different place.
Could you have a Thanksgiving dinner where you've essentially got holographic displays of the family members who couldn't make it sitting at the table with you?
Imagine that.
Yes.
Just imagine how that is. Well, you don't have to travel. You're holographic. You're really there, but you're really not.
Yeah, like a virtual being, you know, a digital twin. There's these ideas of things that are sort of replicating in you know, virtual space, the things that are very characteristic of the thing they're trying to represent.
I'm trying to tell you right now that kind of creeps me out.
It does potentially, yes.
There's kind of a little bit of going, that's kind of creepy, because you really don't know, are they there?
Are they there, or is it their avatar, you know?
Exactly. We have a whole avatar thing going. So kind of summarizing, because we're running out of time.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about where IEEE is going to be headed for 2019. What's their main objectives? What do they hope to accomplish?
So IEEE, again, is the largest technical organization. There's a lot of different things they're working on. They're working on new standards that will enable a lot of the technologies you see out here today and allow them to reach fruition. We've got initiatives in a lot of what we call future directions that are working on new technologies, blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. One that I've been involved in is called symbiotic autonomous systems. Think swarms and things of that sort.
Great.
And we've also got, you know, the other thing is IEEE, we really want to be the community for technologists, for the people that are going to create tomorrow. You know, to give that, because, you know, we don't have jobs forever. One job, you know, you don't work for someone for the rest of your life. Very few people do that anymore. But something that you can have as part of what you can take with you is your community of people of like mind, of similar interests. And a technical society, an institute like the IEEE could be people's technical home, and a place that they could get benefit from, learn from, help to find new opportunities and network and connect with people throughout their whole career.
A like-minded community.
Yes,
what
exactly.
you're doing.
Yeah.
the URL for IEEE?
I think it's just IEEE.org for the big thing, and it's got so many parts.
All right, Thomas Coughlin, thank you
Peggy.
so much for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, listeners, viewers, we're out of time for this segment, but as you know, you can check out us at thepeggysmedleyshow.com or connectedworld.com. Stick around. We've got another segment coming. As always, this is the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation. And remember, with great technology comes great responsibility. We'll be right back.